Our book is Between the World and Me, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This book was established in 2015 and published in New York. In this book, Coates indirectly guides his son Samori, navigating him through the experiences of being a black man in society. He navigates Samori through personal life experiences starting from when he first grew up in West Baltimore, where he first encounters his first realization with the neighborhood he lives in. He begins to form his thoughts after he picks up books from his father at a young age. Thus, this is the start of his future endeavors at Howard University, where he meets significant people such as his wife, Samori's mother, and his beloved friend Prince. He describes his time at Howard being treasurable because he noted it was the first time he was around like-minded people, and he was able to read popular works of black writers and poets. Hence, that's what piqued his interest of the black body. That's what helped create his philosophy on the black experience and his distaste for nonviolent protesting. Later on, his time at Howard continued. His friend Prince is murdered by police, and his murder goes unjust as the officer walks away from all charges. This saddens him as it only pushes him further to revolve his world around his newborn son Samori, and how one day he'll have to teach him to live with the struggles as a black man one day. Furthermore, Coates takes a trip to France and makes a discovery on placing himself in the larger context of the world as a whole. In the final part of the book, Coates meets with Prince's mother, Mabel Jones. In this discussion, she talks about her own experiences and things about Prince. As he leaves, Coates is left stunned after Dr. Jones's talk, and this makes him change his view on non-violent protests as shameful, as Dr. Jones tells him that they never really had any security in the first place with being who they are. He ends the book by leaving his son best wishes and to accept and engage in their struggle of who he is, but that it is not his job to make white people see his struggle. He believes as time goes on, white Americans will continue to devour bodies, but also the environment as well.
Our novel, Between the World and Me, reflects issues of race covered in IDS 3013, especially societal issues when it comes to being a black man in America. As defined by Ferguson in the chapter, What is Racial Domination? Race is a symbolic category based on phenotype or ancestry and constructed according to specific social and historical contexts that is misrecognized as a natural category. Essentially, race is a categorization of people based on physical appearance and ancestry, with social and historical context backing it up. It is mistakenly thought of as something based on nature, but instead was created and perpetuated by humans. Between the World and Me showcases how belonging to this specific categorization of humans influences your mindset, abilities, and safety. A recurring motif in the novel is how fragile the black body is. Coates, who is writing to his son, points out repeatedly that his body can be broken easily by those who consider themselves as white. As we all know, belonging to the racial category white comes with certain privileges. Peggy McIntosh describes her own in the journal White Privilege and Male Privilege. Among these privileges, McIntosh lists not having to educate her children to be aware of systemic racism for their own daily physical protection. This is a privilege Coates does not share, seeing as the message he is giving to his son is full of knowledge on protecting a body so easily destroyed. McIntosh's journal on white privilege is almost a direct contradiction to Between the World and Me, and Ferguson's chapter on racial dominance factually backs up the topics covered in the novel. Between the World and Me includes a brief history lesson and analysis on events affecting the African American community. Coates begins by explaining to his son that no black people have ever liberated themselves strictly through their own efforts. That every great change in the lives of African Americans, we see the hand of events that were beyond our individual control. Coates goes on to cite emancipation from the northern colonies in the Revolutionary War, emancipation from slavery in the Civil War, and emancipation from Jim Crow in the Second World War. All of these historical events were not created simply because of one individual. Coates uses this background history to justify a white woman pushing his son out of the way at a movie theater. He understands that alone, he cannot be a catalyst to change this woman's actions, especially when she was only acting according to a tradition that held black bodies as lesser. McIntosh shares a similar sentiment. She acknowledges that she was not raised to be reflective about interactions between people of different races. That is because centuries of tradition in America make mindsets like this the norm. Coates also tells his son how a history of slavery further cemented African Americans' place on the totem pole. Despite a slave's $4 billion price, they were only seen as that, an investment. With casual wrath and random manglings, gnashing of heads and brains blown out over the river, enslavement was made possible and uncontested. Coates quotes the Valia Glimp, saying that the right to break the black body has always meant that there was someone down in the valley because a mountain is not a mountain if there's nothing below. He explains to his son that the two of them are that below, and that position is essential to their country. Ferguson explains that these inequality regimes maintain the inequalities between the races. They are the structural support for the country, the workplace, and the home. The novel acknowledges that this is a bleak reality, yet he urges his son to be a conscious citizen of this terrible and beautiful world. The novel describes the reality of social inequalities in a harsh manner, but keep in mind this is coming from a father whose only desire is to protect his son.
There was nothing holy or particular in my skin. I was black because of history and heritage. Considering this quote from the book, Coates emphasizes repeatedly the apparent permanence of racial injustice in America, connecting this to current social issues. For example, George Floyd, he was killed on May 25th. Police arrested George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, after a convenience store employee called 911 and told the police that Mr. Floyd had bought cigarettes with a counterfeit $20 bill. Floyd was pinned to the ground by police unconscious and showing no signs of life. Third-degree murder, second-degree, and manslaughter charges against Derek Chauvin, a white officer. As a second example, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, 6 white former Mississippi police officers, pleaded guilty after breaking into a home in which 2 black men were living and torturing them while hurling racial slurs. Jenkins and Parker were staying at a home of Christy Wally, who had been paralyzed as a teen. Parker was a childhood friend of Wally's who helped with her care. The Associated Press reported a white neighbor was complaining about 2 black men staying at their property. As a third example, Andre Hill emerged from a garage and holding up a cell phone in his left hand. Officer Adam Coy shot Andre Hill and handcuffed him. He lays on the ground for 5 minutes and 11 seconds till he dies. I don't know what it means to grow up with a black president, social networks, omnipresent media, and black women everywhere in their natural hair. From the book, to extent, black culture has had an important representation in all aspects of our society, which has greatly impacted the lives of black people. This has pushed other cultures to accept, respect, look up to, and include black people in all and major aspects of society. Overall, Coates struggles to understand how to live freely within his black body while residing in a country that enslaved his ancestors and continues to oppress black citizens.